The Rays homestand is off to a sizzling start. Sparkling pitching performances from Jeremy Hellickson and Matt Moore have put the Rays in a position to sweep. David Price takes turn number 2, fresh off the DL, as the Rays sprint to the All-Star break. The Rays and the White Sox. Let's go. Welcome to Rays Sunday Baseball, brought to you all season long by Hyundai. The Rays and the White Sox get together again this afternoon at Tropicana Field. We welcome you as the Rays go for the sweep here against the Southsiders from Chicago. With Brian Anderson, I'm Dwayne Stats. So good to have you with us. Todd Callis along in just a moment. Well, these 2 wins so far in this series, giving the Rays 10 wins in their last 13. They're making a move in the East. And boy, David Price could be a big part of that based on what we saw Tuesday in Houston.
Yeah, and that's going to be a tough outing to duplicate. David Price, that was the best 7-inning game that I have ever seen pitched. And David Price himself said that's the best that he's ever felt on a baseball field. Complete and utter dominance over 7 innings. He punches out 10 on 70 pitches, doesn't walk anybody, and I don't know if I've ever seen anybody dot up both sides of the plate like David did. That fastball, inside, glove side fastball, always important for him. That was a big pitch. It'll be a big pitch today against the Chicago White Sox to go with that changeup, and that opens up that outside corner for that backdoor cutter. Hopefully he can come anywhere close to what he did last time.
Well, the other big news coming out of yesterday, the All-Star teams have been announced, and for the Rays, Ben Zobrist, for the second time, has made the All-Star team. When we come back, we'll have a sit-down. Todd Callis talks with Ben Zobrist.
Sunday afternoon baseball as the Rays go for a sweep of the Chicago White Sox on a Kids Sunday and Family Fun Day. David Price, John Danks is your pitching matchup this afternoon. For the Rays, the All-Star selection was a bit of a surprise yesterday. In fact, Ben Zobrist wasn't even sure that it was the day of the selection for the All-Star team. Evan Longoria was a strong candidate. Matt Moore, some thought maybe James Loney or Yunel Escobar. It ended up being Ben Zobrist. And today, when we caught up with the Rays super utility man, he talked about how he wasn't even thinking about the Midsummer Classic going into yesterday.
Frankly, I was shocked to find out that I was given the opportunity to go to the All-Star game.
Does that kind of speak towards, there's all the new stats now with WAR and just the versatility you have, and maybe there is some recognition more for your ability to play a lot of positions and do a lot of things on the field that maybe people didn't recognize 5 or 10 years ago?
Well, yeah, I think there's no question that that's one of the reasons why, Leland wanted me on the team was because of my versatility, and I really have the organization, the Rays organization, to thank for that, because I wouldn't have. Coming up through the minor leagues, that wasn't a position that people were seeking after at the major league level. It was kind of like if you can't play one position, then you can be the utility guy. And the Rays have really given me the opportunity to be versatile on a daily basis. So yeah, I do think that had something to do with it.
I know there was some frustration watching you in Houston and getting the day off on Friday.
Yeah, it was. I was. Just getting mentally tired, I think, having some rough at-bats there in Houston and just kind of needed a breather. And thankfully, Joe gave me that breather I needed a couple days ago. And hopefully from here on out, I'll feel, real rested and mentally ready to go. And the rest of the half before the All-Star break here. And we've been playing really well as a team. So there's no one individual, whether guys are going good or bad, that are necessarily affecting how this team is playing. We're playing really well as a team, and we're winning a lot of games. And I think as a team, everybody feels very confident about where we're at.
10 out of the last 13 for the Rays, and they finally picked up some ground in the Boston Red Sox, who lost late last night on the West Coast. So it's the Rays and the White Sox wrapping up this weekend series. We'll have all the action with Dwayne Stats and Brian Anderson right around the corner. Enjoy it right here on Sun Sports.
By Hyundai. New thinking, new possibilities. Coventry Healthcare coverage so you can keep living the life you want. Go live. We've got you covered. By Florida Department of Transportation. Drive sober or get pulled over. And by Toyota. Let's go places. Rays and the White Sox concluding their 3-game series and their season series for that matter. They divided 4 games right down the middle in Chicago earlier this year, going 2-2. The Rays have taken the first 2 games of this 3-game series. Starting lineup for Chicago presented by Sweet Base Supermarkets. Alexi Ramirez, the shortstop, leads off with Gordon Beckham hitting second and Alex Rios third. Jeff Keppinger's in there at first base hitting cleanup. Josh Begley will do the catching. The DH, Leon Viciado. Brent Morrell is the third baseman. Casper Wells in left. And Blake Ducote is in center field batting ninth.
Now taking the mound this afternoon for the Rays is left-hander David Price, and I think short of a no-hitter, I don't think you could have made a bigger splash coming off the disabled list than David did his last time out against the Houston Astros, where he went 7 innings, over 70 pitches. He punched out 10, did not walk a batter, did not give up a run.
He was the height of efficiency. The idea going into that outing that he might see 90 plus pitches. Well, 7 innings of 70 pitch baseball, and today they're talking 90 to 100 pitches, somewhere in that vicinity. And we'll see how it all works out for David Price and the Rays. We're set to play baseball. Alexi Ramirez in the batter's box. First pitch of this game presented by Pinch a Penny. And it's in there, a strike call. Fastball to start things today.
Picking up right where he left off against the Astros. Perfectly located right on the outside corner.
And again, strike 2 with the fastball.
We've seen that from David Price. He likes to establish the inside part of the plate against the right-handed hitters early in a ball game. So get that strike 1 away and then immediately come in and serve notice to Alexi Ramirez.
The chopper to the first base side where James Loney makes the play unassisted. 1 up, 1 down.
Now let's take a quick look at the Rays defense as it lines up this afternoon. The outfield left to right. Rodriguez, Jennings, and Myers across the infield third to first. Longoria, Escobar, Zobrist, and Loney. Jose Molina will be behind the plate.
Here's Gordon Beckham. Beckham has been hot. And there's a first pitch strike.
Well, we've seen that fastball 93, 94. You know, that start against Houston, that his average fastball was 94.9, almost 95 miles an hour. That's the David Price that you're used to.
Yeah, we saw a number of pitches 95 plus, and not 1 3-ball count in the entire outing for Price in that outing against the Astros. Ground ball that's going to roll through the right side off speed, and Beckham has himself a base hit.
Well, Gordon Beckham can do no wrong. Last 12 games or so, he has been hitting the ball very, very well. He uses the right side here on a changeup, just pokes it right through the hole, where that almost looked like it was designed. It was not a hard swing at all, just shooting one through the gap.
Well, Beckham, 10 of his last 19 now. He was 2 for 3 last night. And here is Alex Rios, the number 3 hitter. Rios overall hitting 268. Take a look at the Chevrolet marquee matchup between Price and Rios. Is 9 for 19 with a couple of home runs against him. Next pitch is a strike again.
Now here's the deal. He may be getting a different David Price than he's seen before. He continues to dot the corners with the fastball, use the backdoor cutter, the breaking ball, occasional changeup. And that was a huge pitch last night for Matt Moore against this lineup. His changeup was very good and very effective.
That ball headed up the middle, a base hit off the fastball. Beckham stops at second. So the ground ball to right by Beckham on the off speed, and a base hit right back through the middle for Rios on a fastball.
Yeah, maybe he just sees the ball well off David Price. That was not poorly located at all. That's down and away. Nothing wrong with that pitch, but you see Rios just stays back and hammers it right back up the middle. Sometimes you have that. You just have a certain guy that, for whatever reason, you pick up the ball out of his hand better than others.
Yeah, the other guy normally in this White Sox lineup that way with Price is Konerko, who's on the DL with a lower back issue. He had gone 10 for 20 with a couple of career home runs off David. So he's out of there. Rios first time up a base hit, and that gives Rios 10 for 20. Now Jeff Keppinger. Keppinger hitting .250 for the year. A couple of home runs. Fastball is upstairs. 1-0. The White Sox start this game in 5th place in the American League Central. They're 13 games back. They've lost 8 out of their last 10. It's been a tough go for them recently. Lifted into center. It's Jennings to make the catch. The runners will remain at first and second and be there with 2 outs.
And you wonder, when does the fire sale begin? You've got to think that the general manager, Rick Hahn, for the Chicago White Sox, is going to start trading some of the pieces to try to get an influx of talent into the minor league system, try to restock.
Robin Ventura,
and you get the feeling,
manager there.
You get the feeling too that there's nobody that's untouchable. It would take a ton to get a guy like Chris Sale. You'd have to give up. You'd have to get a haul, put it that way. But I think that they would listen to offers on anybody.
Yeah, they've gone 10 and 26 over the last month plus. Josh Fegley, who was just recently recalled from Charlotte up here, made his major league debut in the first game of this series on Friday.
Got the first hit out of the way, drove in a couple of runs, and figures to get the bulk of the playing time behind the plate for the White Sox as they start to look to see what kind of pieces they're going to have moving forward.
Chops it to short, charged by Escobar, who scoops and throws to get the catcher. And that'll retire Chicago in the first. A couple hits, 2 left. Bottom of the first coming, no score. A couple men on base. No score, and here is the starting lineup for the Rays, presented by Sweet Bay Supermarket. Desmond Jennings, Sean Rodriguez, and the all-star Ben Zobrist. Evan Longoria hits cleanup, then James Loney, followed by Will Myers. Luke Scott, the DH. Jose Molina will catch, and Yunel Escobar at shortstop.
Taking the mound this afternoon for the Chicago White Sox, left-hander John Danks. His numbers brought to you by Coventry Healthcare of Florida. Just 8 starts on the season. Came back into the rotation on May the 24th. 2-5 record, 4.38 earned run average, but is throwing the ball very well. His last 2 outings have gone at least 7 innings, giving up just 3 total earned runs.
And the first pitch, Jennings takes a look at that one wide. Desmond at 264 for the year. 2-0.
Well, and you'll see John Danks, having played with Mark Burley, being mentored a little bit by Mark Burley, works very quickly.
Shot well hit back into deep center. Ducote's going to have to play it one hop off the deep part of the outfield wall in center, and it's a double for Jennings. Well, more and more Jennings loving that leadoff spot to open games.
Yeah, and being very aggressive. He takes 2 pitches that were not hittable, gets ahead in the count 2-0, and then gets a pitch right out over the heart of the plate. And he drills this pitch. Gets it over to Cody's head. He gets it out to that little nook, too. That's the furthest point away from home plate. Blake does a nice job of turning and just firing that ball back into the infield to try to prevent Desmond from ending up at third base.
So a scoring opportunity. 3 pitches into this game, and here's Sean Rodriguez.
Well, that's something that the Rays have been doing an awfully good job of. In spring training, Joe Madden was preaching to this ball club quick starts, quick start to the season, quick start to ball games. And they have been scoring early and often.
There's a bunt. Nicely done by Sean Rodriguez. Throw to first. Jennings advances to third. Keppinger taking the throw from Danks.
Well, Sean Rodriguez getting the bunt down, getting Desmond over to third with less than 2. Boy, based on his numbers off Danks, you'd almost want him to swing the bat. He came into the game 5 out of 10 against him. But a productive out nonetheless.
So Ben Zobrist will have a chance to give the Rays the early lead. White Sox have the infield all the way up on the right side and in, but not all the way in left side. Well, apparently the youngsters not the only ones getting the Ben Zobrist Super Zo utility belt. Matt Joyce has one there. Shot down the left field line. Is it fair? That's a foul ball.
Boy, just out in front of that changeup a hair. Tried to stay back. Boy, he gave it a ride, and it was close.
Center. Ducote makes the catch, tagged by Jennings. He's on his way to the plate and is in there. Rays lead 1-0. The Jennings double keys the run. And that sacrifice fly by Zobrist.
That was the best chance that Blake Ducote was going to have of trying to throw out Desmond Jennings. Just too much speed. He was moving in on that line drive by Zobrist. Set himself up perfectly for a throw, but he'll get a good shot of it right here. Moving in. He couldn't ask for a better opportunity, but there's just too much speed on third.
Now the bases are empty for Evan Longoria. Takes a big cut, strike 1. Well, we're talking about Jennings and jumping out in front. Since going back into the leadoff spot on Monday, he's now 12 of his last 28, 12 of 28 for Jennings.
I'll tell you what, he really responded. He responded when Joe Madden moved him down in the lineup, which is why he's back up at the top now. But he got things together. That on-base percentage is sky high.
Longoria sends it into right. Rios to the track, and he makes the catch. And the Rays are finished in the first. They pick up a run. 2 an inning, 1-0 Tampa Bay.
I remember the opportunity just to get on the mound, but not only getting there, but actually doing well and succeeding. That was a pretty neat memory in Little League.
Kids Sunday here at Tropicana Field, and Ben Zobrist starting to collect those special moments, linking all the way back to his Little League days, and already has been an All-Star, and this year selected to represent the Rays in the All-Star game in New York.
I love the fact that Ben Zobrist said that he was shocked at being selected. But you know what it goes to show you? It goes to show you the importance of winning that game to get home field advantage, because that is a very valuable asset to have on a team. He can do so many things for you. And so he was chosen because of that versatility.
First pitch from Price to Viciado is a bit high. 1 ball, no strikes. And Joe Madden talked about what he loved about the idea, aside from having one of his players picked, and a manager always loves that, but he loved the idea that it represented valuing the totality of the game that Zobrist can put on the field. Not just defense, not just hitting, not just power, but his versatility, the complete game that he puts on the field, recognized there by Ben being selected to the All-Star team. Down to first. Nice backhand right there. And Loney makes the play unassisted. So that's 1 away here in the 2nd inning. Right now, let's check in for the first time in this game with Kelly Nash. Kelly?
Hi, guys. I've got the belt on right here, the Super Zo utility belt. Of course, utility and versatility, part of the reason why he was selected for the All-Star game. And Joe Madden sent out this tweet. You know he has got to be very proud of him. I love Ben's All-Star selection from the perspective that a complete game matters. It's not just about batting average. He personifies that. Well said, Joe.
Well, that's the point. And that's part of why the Rays have been so successful over the past few years, with Madden coming in here from the beginning. Part of his game plan was to develop versatility, and through that, depth, and that absolutely has been a major part of the Rays' success.
And when you look at the back of the baseball card, coming into play today, Ben 265, 5 home runs. That's usually what matters, in getting to the All-Star game. But what else does he do? Play second base. He could fill in at short, finish the season play the outfield, hits from both sides of the plate. And it's one of those picks that, it personifies his complete game, but it also is about winning that game. Yep. And you want winning players and versatile players and valuable players, and that's what he is.
Yeah, particularly in an all-star situation with home field advantage riding on it. 1-2, Morel up here, and a nice fastball by Price to get strike 2. Do it by him. Starts it a little wide, and it did not cut to the plate. 2-2.
Well, that's why the glove side fastball for David Price is so important in on the righties, because it opens up the outer half, and that's where that backdoor cutter comes into play.
Foul back. Now, Price pitched against the White Sox in Chicago at the end of April. One of the games the Rays won. That was an 8-3 win. He gave up 3 runs in 7 innings in that one and had 9 strikeouts. And made a lot of pitches. See right there, 120 pitches. And this White Sox ball club, when you look at their struggles, they have had some offensive struggles. They're last in the American League in runs scored, last in hitting, 13th in home runs.
And that was such a big part of their game.
Yeah, the home run was a big part of their game. Cut the miss. Morel out on strikes. Cutter got him, and that's the first strikeout of the day for David Price.
Well, you just feel like Brent Morel is just facing an onslaught of very good pitches by David Price, doing what he can to foul him off. Fastballs away, fastballs in, and then finally succumbing to the backdoor cutter. Just one quality pitch after another.
Here's maybe, you look behind the number a little bit, that really tells you a lot about the White Sox struggles regarding the home run output. They are 6-26 this year in games in which they do not hit a home run. That tells you that they're not having a very efficient time manufacturing runs, and the home run is such a big part of their game, and if they're not hitting home runs, they're in trouble.
They're too one-dimensional. They've tried to get the running game going, and they've got 3 guys that have 10 or more stolen bases. The problem is, and that's great, but the problem is their on-base percentage too. They're not getting on base. So you may be able to knock some guys in, have a pretty good average with runners in scoring position, but it doesn't matter if they're not in scoring position. And too often, they're just too one-dimensional. That's it.
And you think of trying to manufacture runs, you think of maybe stealing a base, maybe bunting a guy over. This team, it's very frustrating for Robin Ventura, because this team is not a good bunting team either.
Got a lot of things working against them, and that's why you figure that they're going to be making some moves and trying to bring in some influx of young talent. And that's that man's job right there, Robin Ventura, to keep this team focused. There's still a lot of baseball left to be played. And with what they're going through on the field, like you mentioned, 10-26 in their last 36, trade rumors swirling around a lot of those players. His main job is to keep focused on the task at hand. That's to play baseball.
Escobar moving to his right, gets in front of this one and skips it into first, dug out by Loney. Wells is out number 3, 1-0 Rays.
Now James Loney getting ready to lead off the bottom of the second for the Rays. They lead it 1-0. How about the play, though, right here? Escobar with a short hop. This is a tough hop right for a first baseman. And you see how he squats down, gets his head behind the glove because it's that in-between hop, tough to handle. But he goes down, the head on the glove, makes a very nice play.
Well, Escobar hasn't made an error since May the 20th, and Loney just helped him out right there. And here's James Loney going after the first pitch. Rolls it to Beckham at second. One pitch and one out. That's 44 consecutive errorless games for Escobar at shortstop. And we've talked about that from the very beginning. The Rays signed Loney for that reason, to tighten up the inner defense and give all of the other infielders confidence that they can make a play at first and he'll come up with the throw.
Yeah, just get it close. Escobar just a little bit short on that throw, but boy, he's been so good at shortstop. And how about that? Like you said, 44 airless games in a row, and he's right in the thick of it, firing range.
Pitch up, and Myers fouls it back. You like the general location of that pitch, a fastball in the upper 80s.
And you do not want to pitch Will Myers up in the zone. That's a dangerous spot. You want to go down and away from him, way down and away from him, right there. That's where you pitch Will Myers right now. What he does, though, is he forces you to have to make that pitch 3 times. He may swing at it twice, and then if you miss that spot, guess what? He's right on it. And up is bad news. Up will go a long way with him.
Right now, 2 strikes. And the pitch is wide. In the game today and all season long, Tires Plus donates $100 to the Pediatric Cancer Foundation for every Tampa Bay Rays home run televised on Sun Sports. A 2-2 count. Runs batted in, 6 extra base hits, 3 home runs, including the grand slam. And he's caught looking. Myers called out on strikes on the fastball.
You know, that was a reverse setup there by John Danks. The previous pitch was a cutter in. So that ball leaves his hand. It cuts in off the plate for a ball. Then he follows it up with just a traditional fastball, and it just locks Will Myers. He sees that ball coming out of the hand, the same arc speed, the same general location, gives up on it, except it's not the cutter.
Two outs, and here's Luke Scott. Luke had a big hit in last night's game.
How about
he takes the ball? He's swung the bat well against lefties.
He has, and he faced a tough one last night. Chris Sale, who had not given up an extra base hit to a left-handed hitter all year. 8 hits out of 75 at-bats coming into the game yesterday, and all 8 were singles. Well, Luke Scott gets him for a double, an RBI double. Then later, guy hitting behind him, Sam Fold, gets Chris Sale for an RBI single. So 2 of the 3 runs driven in by the left-handed hitters in the 8 and 9 hole in last night's game.
Well, a big hit there by Luke Scott. And how about Sam Fold? He's hitting .357 against lefties. Here's that hit that Luke Scott got last night.
Well, out in front of that changeup right there by Sale. He just yanks it down into the corner. Just a great at-bat. He was actually down in that at-bat 0-2. Was able to work it back to 3-2. And doubled into the corner.
Out in front of that off-speed pitch. It's 2-2.
And then what you were talking about, Sam Fold going right back up the middle for a run. But yeah, that hit makes no sense, those numbers, at all. I guess that's why there's 2 halves to a season.
That's a base hit past Beckham. May have gotten a little bit of the glove on that one, and Scott has another hit. This one off the lefty, John Danks.
You wonder if this ball had some action on it. Luke Scott hit it hard. Beckham goes down. He gets the glove to the baseball. The ball doesn't cooperate. Mislocation.
So that gives Scott 6 of 18 in his career against Danks. And a couple home runs in that mix as well.
Give him another opportunity, and things are starting to turn around for Luke Scott. And that's, I'll tell you what, that's the last thing the opposition needs is another guy in this Rays lineup to be productive. He got his 30th RBI. That now gives the Rays 8 hitters in this lineup with 30 or more RBIs. You talk about production, well, 1 through 8.
Yeah, that's certainly been indicative of this offense and the resurgence of the Rays offense from the first couple weeks of the season. And it's been consistent because when one guy goes cold, you got a couple other guys get hot.
Not only that, but you have production all the way through. You know, last night, 8 and 9. You didn't figure those guys were going to be able to do much of anything against Chris Sale. They drive in 2 of the 3 runs. We've seen those games where 7, 8, 9. There's like that game on the road trip where all 3 guys were 3 for 5 and driving in 6 of the runs. I mean, it's amazing how there are just no dead spots in the Rays lineup.
2 strikes here on Molina.
Makes it tough on a pitcher, too, because there's no easy innings. There's no take-a-breath inning. You've got to be locked in mentally each and every pitch all the way through the lineup, and that will take its toll.
See Molina with the hit in the series. That was the home run he hit on Friday. Scott's back in. Ball, 2 strikes. Yanks, 28 years old. He had shoulder surgery in August of 2012. This pitch is wide, 2-2. It's really remarkable in a way. Here's a guy, he was their opening day pitcher last year, and then in May went on the disabled list, wound up having surgery in August, and is back pitching now.
He went on the disabled list, was that May the 25th last year. Comes off May the 24th this year to pitch. He's made every start since, and actually, as he's been working himself back into, you know, being out of the game, it's not easy just to step back in and be sharp, but he has gotten himself to the point that his last couple of outings, he's been very good.
And he has Molina out in front, strikes him out. So the Rays leave a man through 2. It's 1-0 Tampa Bay. And we are pleased to have with us Alex Cobb from the Rays dugout. Alex, I don't know how long this interview is going to go because Price has worked so quickly and he's been so efficient coming out of that outing in Houston. But let us just say it's great to see you in full uniform and making the progress you're making.
Yeah, it's great to be back in the dugout. No offense to you guys. I've been loving watching you on TV, but it's really nice to get out here and see it firsthand.
I'll tell you what, it was great to see you off the mound the other day. Talk to us about that. Got to be the excitement. Frustrating not being able to get out there, and finally things are starting to ramp up for you.
Yeah, I started pulling into the parking lot, getting the adrenaline like it was game day for me. But, you know, it just started off so slow. Everything with the rehab process took a long time. I mean, even walking, sleeping, everything was a struggle. But, you know, in the last few days, things have just ramped up for me. It's just a huge amount of success in the last few days in terms of physical activity and you know, just the positive of life that I've been able to go through, from sleeping to walking to, you know, doing what I want to do again. It's been awesome.
Yeah, that's great news. Cody here leads off with a base hit on a fastball, so the White Sox put a man on. Being away from this club and being the competitor that you are, that setup is not natural for you, is it?
No, it's. I mean, David described it pretty well when he was going through it. It's just you feel apart from the team. You do. It's just you have that urge to be in the dugout and cheering your guys on, and it's just it's deflating being at home sitting on the couch.
Alexi Ramirez leads. Ramirez in the batter's box, a little lead by Cody over at first.
So, Alex, what is there any timetable for you set yet, or is it still kind of on a day-to-day situation?
It's such a tricky rehab process just because, you know, you have days that you feel better than others, and everybody's different when it comes to this type of injury. So it's not like a sprained ankle where you can, you know, give a timeline of 4 to 6 weeks or whatever it might be. But what's nice about this injury is that I've been able to keep up my physical activities to the point where when I do feel right and normal with everything going on with the headaches and the vertigo and stuff like that, I'll be able to jump right back on the mound with you know, no real signs of trouble getting back into it, just because I've been able to work out recently the last week or so, and throwing off a mound now. So once this headache clears up, I'll be good to jump back out there.
Take us, if you can, through the process. The first time you went back to the mound on the side, what that was like for you.
I was pretty confident that it was going to be okay, just because I had done some physical stuff before that, consisting of like running on the treadmill or doing leg workouts, stuff that are more strenuous on the injury that I'm having than pitching is. So I was pretty confident that I was going to be okay, but I just had a ton of excitement just because I knew that this was the first. Once this process started, that it was going to be an easier journey for me, because it was going to be a lot of bigger steps than what I was taking before. So, you know, after that bullpen session, I'll be able to take on another bullpen session tomorrow, assuming everything goes well. Be able to move on to hopefully live BPs and sim games, and then rehab assignments.
Knowing that the competitor that you are and your desire to get back out on the mound, have you been playing nice with the guys in the training room, or have you been pushing them, trying to nudge them?
As of late, I'm pushing Ronnie a little bit. In the beginning, I didn't want them to tell me I'm doing anything. I just wanted to lay there. Nice. I have, as of late, I'm getting them going a little bit, trying to get Ronnie to allow me to do more activities. And at one point, I tried to push Ronnie a little bit. I got onto an elliptical. I got a little bit sick, and from then, I've kind of let him decide my future for me. So I've just been in the best care of not only these training staff, but the doctors around me. I'm learning so much through this process of all just the amazingly bright minds that are out there that know everything that's going on, and it's really reassuring every step of the way that they've seen it, done it. It's not a big deal for them, and they have no doubts that I'll be okay. It's just it's a huge lifting experience every time you hear that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, from our vantage point, it's been an uplifting experience because your progress has been positive, and we look forward to seeing you out there when you're ready, and not before, but we hope that's as soon as possible.
Absolutely. You know, and I think that that timetable is getting pretty close for us. So I'm not going to rush it. I know this team's doing an awesome job without me right now, so I don't need to have that sense of urgency to come back. You know, everybody's doing their job right now, and it's been awesome to watch. And it's going to be nice when we come back. It's going to be a fun race at the end of the season, the way things look like they're shaping up.
All right, Alex, before we let you go, just one piece of advice when you're dealing with Ron Porterfield. Keep in mind, he's an all-star.
I know. I can't talk to him.
Yeah, that's right. So he's going to be in New York along with Ben Zobrist.
I know it.
All righty.
All right.
All right, Alex, thanks for joining us, and we're looking forward to seeing you out there as soon as possible.
Can't wait. Thanks, guys.
All right. Rio sends a fly ball into center, and Jennings is right there to make the catch. Another scoreless inning. We go to the bottom of the third, 1-0 Rays. Ball on Sun Sports is brought to you by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. Visit your Honda dealer for great lease and finance deals on fuel-efficient Hondas. And by Checkers. Feast on. Rays on an extended homestand leading up to the All-Star break. Moving into the bottom of the third, holding a 1-0 lead. Yanel Escobar is going to lead off. John Danks, the left-hander, floats one in there too high. 1 ball, no strikes.
Dwayne, I got to be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of the at the ballpark wedding proposal. But in between innings, a gentleman pulled it off about as good as you can do it. I mean, actually got goosebumps. I actually got goosebumps on the right leg.
Really?
I don't know why the right leg, but I got goosebumps on the right leg, and he pulled it off. It was good. It was really good. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not usually a fan of that, but he played it off nice and, I mean, pulled it off flawlessly. They had people crying that weren't even part of the group.
What part of it did you like the best?
I like the fact that it was up on the scoreboard, and then he drops to one knee, and she was completely surprised.
Yeah.
She bursts into tears, and he just pulled it off like a champ. Look at this.
Look at that.
They're not even a part of the group. I'm telling you, it was that good.
Ground ball down to third. Morel takes care of that. Escobar is the first out.
And I was pitching for, here we go. Yeah, see?
Yeah,
See,
photo ops now.
They should, because that guy right there is a champ. Fantastic.
Great things happen here at the ballpark.
I know. I know. It's tremendous. Tremendous.
And I was when Jennings takes the first pitch for a ball.
I had my color. There is.
Okay.
I had a college roommate when I pitched for Arizona out in Phoenix. He flies out with his girlfriend and gets engaged to her at a game that I was pitching. I was pitching the game, and he did the on the scoreboard. He did the whole thing.
Did it break your concentration?
No, but then he was mad at me because he said, "Did you see it?" I'm like, "I'm in the fourth inning of a game against the Giants. I'm not looking for you to get engaged. You pick a different day." And so he's ticked off at me that I didn't see it. Bigger fish to fry. I didn't even get invited.
Well, after you didn't pay any attention.
Well, you're right.
You missed the engagement, you're not coming to the wedding. There's a strike to Jennings. It's now 3-1. See, it's always good to get that out of the way early. You know, second or third inning. Now you're officially engaged. Then you can relax and enjoy the game. And
can you imagine the butterflies that he had coming to the ballpark today, knowing what he was going to do? Didn't even break a sweat. I'm telling you, I want to high five him.
Nothing like preparation.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool as a cucumber.
He might be more nervous now. He's thinking about, what he just pulled off.
Hopefully he taped the game.
Well, we wish them the very best.
Yes, we
and
do.
We know that they have a great life together in store. And it all started right here at Tropicana Field. Sean Rodriguez up here.
Up there,
Sean sacrificed his first time. And Jennings opened the first with a double. Sean came into this game 5 out of 10 in his career against Danks. Jennings back in at first. Yeah, Danks throughout his recent career has not been an easy guy to run against. He's, because of the shoulder situation, missed a lot of time, but you go back to his last full season, he had 7 pickoffs.
I'll tell you something. John Danks came over to the White Sox. Him and Mark Burley became inseparable, and he took on a lot of the attributes of Mark Burley. Watches him do it so successfully. That's why you see him working very quickly, working on that pickoff move. Burley has a good pickoff move, controls the running game. John Danks does too, and it's such a weapon as a left-handed pitcher. I mean, as a righty, you just want to keep him close, keep the stolen base numbers down. Some guys are better than others, but as a lefty, it's such a weapon. You're looking right at him. You got a chance to take that part of the game out.
Into right center off the bat, and Rodriguez going to be caught by Rios, and retreating to first is Desmond Jennings. That's the second out here in the third. Join us Sunday the 14th as pop star Carly Rae Jepsen takes the stage following the Rays versus the Astros game. She'll perform her unforgettably catchy hit, Call Me Maybe. Don't miss her performance as she includes all of her hits, including This Kiss and Tonight I'm Getting Over You. Tickets, visit RaysBaseball.com/concerts.
The last time I went home, I got in the car and that song came on, Call Me Maybe.
Really?
And my son sang it to me.
Well, there you are. See?
He sang it to me.
So you're looking forward to 14.
Right.
Yeah.
rub it right in his face. Guess what, buddy? Guess where Daddy's going?
You are a sensitive type.
Apparently.
People appreciate a sensitive man.
Some.
And then again. 0-1 count and a pitch out. Boy, that was a pitch out and then some. 1-1. Jennings on the minds of the White Sox. Has 4 steals here already in the month of July. That's as many as he had in May and June put together. Zobrist taps it to third. Morrell on the charge. And the throw to first in time. The Rays leave a man. We're through 3. It's 1-0 Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Rays and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Tampa Bay Rays. David Price, 34 pitches through 3. 25 of those have been strikes. That on the heels of the 7-inning performance he turned in Houston, in which he made just 70 pitches. Well, some people have proposals on their minds and other people have cotton candy. It's good to get that out of the way early as well.
Yeah, so that you can chase him down for the next 7 innings, 6 innings.
Jeff Keppinger leads off the 4th, and the pitch is in there for a strike. Well, it's great here on a kid's Sunday.
Oh,
you know,
that was
candy, all kinds of stuff going on.
That was the day. If we were ever going to go see a big league ball game, it was Sunday.
Loney under this one in foul territory. Keppinger is out number 1.
We'd go to Sunday school, and then you have that like 15 minutes or so before you go to big church.
Yep.
And so we'd go to Sunday school, come out, and I'll meet up with mom and dad, and they'd be like, you know what, kids, we're going up to a baseball game. And that was like the best thing ever. Sunday afternoon games, fantastic.
They get to experience that same routine here today. Josh Fegley, the catcher, in the box right now. All no strikes. Remember the first time you walked into a Major League ballpark?
I do. I absolutely do.
And the experience is almost universal, I think. High shot, deep to left. Rodriguez toward the corner with room. In front of the low wall on the track, makes the catch. It's almost surreal, isn't it?
You know, yeah, and it was Cleveland Municipal Stadium, and you used to walk up the ramp, and you couldn't see the field until you got to the top of the ramp, and then the field was down below you as you walked in. And I'll never forget walking up that. It was an old stadium, cement, you know, wet, and you're kind of walking up there, and you get to the top, and you see the most glorious field ever.
Yep.
And that place was a dump, let's be honest. But when I walked up there and saw that as a kid, there just was not anything better than what my eyes saw.
Yep.
It was the greatest.
Cut to miss by Viciedo.
Yours?
Oh, same kind of thing, but it was the old ballpark in St. Louis. Sportsman's Park when it morphed into Busch Stadium. And it was the park that had been there. They played baseball on that ground for decades. And it went back to the early 1900s. And same thing when the Busch family bought that ballpark and the club, they refurbished it. And fresh paint, beautiful infield, outfield, the grass. There was grass there on that baseball field like it didn't exist anywhere else in the world.
Yep.
And you walked in there for a night game, and it was like walking into another realm. Hot shot, the base hit into center. Viciedo is aboard with a 2-out base hit. So those are always fun experiences. They were absolutely breathtaking for youngsters. Brent Morrell, the third baseman. Two outs, runner aboard. White Sox have had runners in 3 of the first 4 innings. They've collected 5 hits so far off Price. All 5 have been singles. Strike on the first pitch to the White Sox third baseman. He's just up from the minor leagues. Given 2 out of 10 in a White Sox uniform this year. And a base hit going to fall in front of Jennings. Down to second is Viciedo.
Chicago White Sox trying to put something together here with 2 outs. Morrell got that pitch. That was looked to be a backdoor cutter that just stayed up a bit.
So Casper Wells, the left fielder, will be up now with 2 men on and 2 men out.
Still, you know, you're just 1 out away from getting out of this inning. David Price in good shape with the pitch count. If they are talking about upwards of 90, maybe 100 pitches. And, you know, that's something that he's been good at all season long. Always efficient. He throws a lot of strikes. Needs a couple quality strikes here to Casper Wells and get out of this inning unscathed.
It's a strike. We got Wells on the ground ball to Escobar. That was in the second when Escobar moved to his right, got in front of it, and then made that low throw that Loney made a nice play on at first base to retire the side.
You see right there, look at that breakout. 33 strikes, just 12 balls.
And the fastball by him, 0-2.
Such an important pitch. The pitch in. You could throw the ball in for strikes and then in for effect. He ties up Casper Wells on that swing right there. It opens up that whole outside third of the plate. It really gives you a couple extra inches out there. Guys have to respect that pitch, not because you're just brushing it back all the time, but you're able to throw strikes in there. And David Price has proven that he can do that consistently. Tough to cover the whole plate against a guy like David.
Fly ball, not too deep to left. That's Sean Rodriguez waiting. And the White Sox strand 2. Bottom of the 4th coming. 1-0 Rays. Again to hit in the bottom of the 4th inning. And Evan Longoria, the cleanup man, leads off. Then James Loney and Will Myers. Today's game presented in high definition by H.H. Gregg. First pitch misses to Longoria, 1-0. Looked at a fly ball to Rios in the first. 0-for-1.
Well, he took a big swing at that pitch. Danks left that out over the plate. That was a good pitch to hit. Evan just missed it. Takes a little walk to regroup.
The Rays have had a couple of those. Myers had one in his at bat in the 2nd inning. Evan here in the 4th.
Nice breaking ball there by John Danks. And he attacks these hitters with fastball, curveball, changeup, cutter. Haven't seen too much of the curveball. Right here, he fires off a one at 74 miles an hour. He's able to get under the swing of Longoria.
And he got him to reach for the off-speed pitch there. Out in front, strikes him out. 1 away, and we'll check in with Todd.
Dwayne, thanks. James Loney riding a 16-game hitting streak. Rays manager Joe Madden has said what he's learned about the Rays first baseman.
Contact's harder again. Like you're saying, I think I'm seeing more on the other side. He's a smart guy. He's a smart baseball player. He, for me, as much as anybody on this team, does not try to do too much per at bat. He will understand what he thinks the pitcher's going to try to do to him, and he'll make that adjustment. Again, meaning that he's not going to try to hit home runs against guys that aren't going to throw him home run pitch. He's going to take that ball and hit it the other way. Now, there's other times he knows somebody might give him something. And you'll see that swing looking to go on this side. He's smart.
So, guys, we'll see what he does against Danks. His only hit against John in his career was a home run. Back to you.
Yeah, he came into the game 1 out of 6 against him. But, boy, has he been great against left-handed pitching this year. Coming into this game, hitting .372 off lefties. 2nd in the league. And he's 1-1 against Danks right now. 2 balls and a strike.
Joe Madden just described perfectly what James Loney does. When he talks about not throwing throwing him home run pitches. Those are the guys that just stay away from him, want to pitch him down and away. That's a pitch he knows he's not going to be able to drive out of the ballpark. So if he knows the guy's going to work him away, especially the lefties, that's where most lefties on lefty matchups, that's where you're going, down and away. And realizing that and knowing that it's not a pitch to drive and hit out of the ballpark, he just takes those and slaps them into left field. That's why the average is what it is against lefties.
Bounces this one to first, and Keppinger makes the play. So strikeout and a ground out. 2 up, 2 down in the fourth. And Will Myers, who was caught looking in the second inning, will bat now.
I'm just amazed at the consistency of James Loney's approach, because he's had a tremendous amount of success in the first half, and he's gone on big-time runs where his average was up at 370 for a while. And usually when guys do that, and they're getting a good measure of success, they try to do more. And he's not done that.
Ground ball back to the hill. Danks makes the toss to first, and it's a 1-2-3 fourth. We go to the fifth. 1-0 Tampa Bay. We head to the fifth. Time for the Just for Men Auto Stop Foolproof Stat. Ben Zobrist, who has been named to the All-Star team by Jim Leland, will be the American League manager. Starts by position since 2011. More at second base than anywhere else. Second base, right field, and shortstop, which pretty much finished the season last year playing shortstop every day, and played it well enough that the Rays would have been happy to have him play shortstop. It happens that they had an opportunity to acquire Escobar, which then freed them up to do some other things and utilize more of the versatility that Zobrist brings.
Yeah, you got to think about this. How much work does Ben Zobrist do? A lot of guys, you know Escobar. He works out at shortstop. Evan Longoria works out at third. That's where they know they're going to be. Do they work hard? They absolutely do. It tells in their, you can tell it in their play. But a guy like Ben Zobrist could be in right field one day, second base the other. I mean, he's got to take ground balls, fly balls, not get stale, continue to work on all of these different positions. A lot of work that goes into being that versatile. And it's one thing to be versatile, but it's another to be good at it. And he's very good at it.
You got to be organized just to keep track of the different gloves.
Right.
Blake to Cody on an 0-1 pitch, pops it up, and Loney handles that at first. One away.
And then how about this? Okay, so he's finished, takes his ground balls, he goes out to right field, takes some fly balls, gets some angles, and now he's going to hit. It's his turn to hit in the cage. And I get hit from both sides.
That's right.
I mean, come on.
He's got to keep track of two hitters, essentially.
Yeah.
A lefty and a righty.
Yep. An infielder and outfielder.
Yep.
But he sleeps well in the offseason.
And he's headed to New York to the All-Star game. Alexi Ramirez up the right side. That ball is going to be a foul ball. Just missed a potential extra base hit by inches there. Let's take a look at how close that was.
Ooh, a couple inches, but clearly foul.
The Rays lead this game 1-0. The Yankees lead the Orioles 1-0 in New York. That game's in the top of the 6th inning. It's Hamill and Kuroda the matchup in that one. Ramirez has grounded out and popped out. He came into this game 4 of 19 in his career against Price. Faring pretty well this year against lefties at .317. Runs the count to 2-1. Out to short. Escobar with the throw to first, retires Ramirez. 2 up, 2 down in the 5th.
And David Price continues to get outs, continues to get them early in counts. Just at 53 pitches here, 2 outs into the 5th. And I'll tell you what, it's a good thing he is pitching so well, because John Danks, after the leadoff hitter of the game, Desmond Jennings doubles, comes around to score in the 1st. He has gotten it together, throwing the ball very well. So,
yeah, that's the only scoring opportunity the Rays have had. We have to get a man into scoring position since the 1st inning. Pitch to Beckham. That's a strike.
What you see from both of these pitchers is they're starting to introduce all of the pitches in the arsenal, and they're getting a good mix going. We saw that in the at-bat with Evan Longoria. John Danks with the curveball, then the changeup after the fastball that was fouled off. So they are really starting to work around the zone with all the pitches. They're having success.
1-1. Give Price the upper hand in the count. 1-2. Two and two. David Price making his 11th start of the year, his 2nd since coming off the disabled list when he was spot on in his first start back in Houston. And he strikes out Beckham. 2nd strikeout of the day for David Price. 1-0 Rays, middle of 5. might expect, the Stanley Cup is starting to make its rounds, and it popped up at U.S. Cellular Field last Wednesday, and John Danks did the honors of receiving the first pitch, tossed out by Patrick Sharp of the Blackhawks in the photo op.
Got a picture
Stanley
with the cup, man.
Yeah, pretty cool.
You know, they engrave all the names of the guys every year. That Stanley Cup championship. At some point, they're going to run out of room. You think about that. What do you do?
Yeah, that's a logistics issue.
Yeah.
2 strikes to count to Luke Scott.
Well, we know how it goes down now, Dwayne. We're getting word. They remove rings. They remove the oldest ring, put it in the Hall of Fame, and then start again. Start anew. I always wondered about that. That was one of those questions I had. Like, what happens when you run out of room? How do they do that? Quick answer.
It's good to know people. Smart people.
Our guys are good.
Yep. It's a 2-2 count to Luke Scott. Yeah, that Stanley Cup's pretty fun because it shows up in some of the more interesting places.
Yep.
Yep. They get to do anything they want to with it for a day.
24 hours.
Yeah.
What would you do with it?
Oh. I'd have to ponder that for a while and think of something that was worthwhile.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do with it either.
And Luke bounds it back, had a pretty good cut at the fastball. Rays with a run on just 2 hits and 1 walk.
I would take it to the gym in the morning and spot it.
All right.
That's what I would do.
Very good. Oh, you'd do something else.
That's more, yeah.
You might start at the gym.
Right.
Wouldn't stay there.
No.
It's like you. You might start at the gym, but you don't stay there.
I'll tell you this. The Stanley Cup would sleep in.
Now, see, that'd be cool.
He would sleep in.
Yeah.
Be a long night for him.
Swing and a miss. Scott out in front. Strikeout number 4 for Danks.
Well, like I said, John Danks and David Price, they're getting it all working. The lefty on lefty changeup, you don't see it too often. And he gets Luke Scott right there. You know, and that's one of those things, too, where you're starting to see it more and more. It used to be that pitch was discouraged, lefty on lefty changeup. But you know what? If it's a good pitch for you, why are you not going to use it? Why are you going to limit yourself? You become more predictable.
Well, you cut the odds down when you throw 1 pitch away completely.
Right. And by the way, it won't take too long for the league to figure that out. He doesn't throw his changeup left on left.
So instead of 3 or 4 pitches, you cut it down
2?
Yeah.
Maybe 2.
Yeah.
A fastball and a breaking ball. And by the way, 95% of the time he's middle away with it. Well, makes it easy.
Ground ball off the bat of Molina. And Ramirez makes the play. So 2 gone. And here is Yanel Escobar. 0 for 1. He grounded out to third his first time. Only run came in the first on a sacrifice fly by Ben Zomer, scoring Desmond Jennings. Escobar with a handful of at-bats off Danks coming into this game, but 4 out of 6. 1-1 count. And a liner in the left and falling in for a base hit.
John Danks trying to throw behind. Wide turn there by Escobar. John Danks trying to come in with that cutter, and Escobar, a nice job of getting the hands through quick and getting the barrel of the bat to that baseball. That was a quick swing, recognizing that pitch. And just shoots a rocket out to left field.
Now the top of the order for the Rays again. Desmond Jennings, he's been on twice. He doubled and scored in the first, walked in the third. Up. Desmond came into the game .327 against lefties. Escobar back in at first. Again over there. Escobar is back. Danks has had a couple of pickoffs this year. Two and 0. Speeding up a little bit there on the delivery, and the pitch was high.
Well, that's a lot of times what happens, and he does like to get going quick. That's part of the arsenal of controlling the running game. But when the front side goes a little bit too quickly, that arm just cannot catch up. Everything has to be in sync. You start to go, the arm's got to get out the glove quick. Same thing right there. Trying to throw that cutter, and he gets it going quick again. Keeping an eye on Escobar, but the arm not able to catch up. Ball's up in the zone. Now you run the risk of walking Escobar to second base.
A 3-0 count to Desmond.
At the very minimum, you've given Desmond Jennings a great count to swing it, whether it be 3-0 or 3-1.
And there is ball 4 outside. So with 2 outs, the Rays find themselves with runners at first and second. And Sean Rodriguez on his way to the plate. Wrigley goes to the mound to talk with Danks. We'll remind you to break out your boogie shoes for disco night Saturday, July 13th, when the Rays take on the Astros. The disco era lives postgame when KC and the Sunshine Band perform their classic dance tracks. That's the Way I Like It. Get down tonight and shake your booty. For tickets, visit raysbaseball.com/concerts. Now Sean Rodriguez. Check swing and a little foul ball down in front of George Hendrick for a strike. Nice 2-out opportunity for the Rays with speed on the bases. Jennings at first, Escobar at second.
A hitter at the plate who's had success off of Danks in the past. Boy, you'd love to see the Rays push that lead 1 run. David Price is pitching well, but give him some breathing room.
Broken bat, the ground ball, base hit into left. Escobar heads to the plate. He will score, and it's 2-0. Sean Rodriguez driving in the run with a Boca bat ground ball base hit.
This is what happens when you don't give up on an inning. 2 outs, nobody on. Okay, base hit by Escobar, but then him over at first base. John Danks worrying about maybe Escobar running. He rushes his delivery, falls behind, ends up walking Desmond Jennings. And then right here, Sean Rodriguez, we talked about it, success now 6 out of 12 against John Danks. Gets that bat broke. Still able to get it in the hole into left field, and that will plate the Rays' second run. Great job by those three putting that inning together.
All of this with 2 gone. And the threat continues with men at first and second for Ben Zobrist. Ben drove in the first run of the game with a sacrifice fly. He had 2 hits last night, going 2 out of 3. That's a strike. Well, the Rays have picked up an additional run, trying to make it a more productive inning. Roller foul. Off speed. And Zobrist is behind in the count. Plate in. It's 1-2. And a foul ball off his foot.
That swing on that pitch tells you why guys love the cutter in. That got the back leg. That pitch with late movement, boring in. You get that swing off your leg.
And let some of that pain subside. Set to face Danks again on a 1-2 pitch. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Well, that was a nice take by Ben Zobrist. A tough pitch where he gets quick to the plate, throws a good changeup after coming in.
Zobrist found himself in a 1-for-22 stretch before picking up the 2 hits last night. Ground ball to third. Morel will beat Jennings to the bag for the force. That'll do it for the Rays in the 5th inning, but they add a run. They leave a couple, and at the end of 5, it's 2-0 Tampa Bay.
I didn't actually know I could hit the ball that far. I've never had hit the ball to the fence, but there's a guy throwing pretty hard that day, and I guess I caught it right, but I had no idea I could hit the ball that far. So it'd be an Edgewood Little League in the East Mountains. So.
Probably being when I was 12 years old at Cooperstown, the Field of Dreams Park. My first at bat, I hit a home run there, and that was pretty exciting.
All right, the Little League moments.
Yeah.
We had a hitter.
Yep.
Ben Zobrist talking about starting a game on the mound.
Right.
2 pitchers talking about hitting, going deep.
That's right.
Home runs.
That was mine. My favorite Little League memory. It was the last day of the season, and my dad was at work, and he worked at a mom and pop tire shop right across the yard. And I walked over and, said goodbye, going to my last game for the season. Had not hit a home run, and I was 12 years old. Last game of Little League, the major division. And we were talking about that. He said, well, why don't you just swing like you mean it then? I mean, pick out a pitch and let it fly.
Yeah.
Okay. So I went. First at bat. Took a rip. Bomb.
There you go.
Ended up going to the All-Stars and hit like 3 or 4 more. I was like, yeah, okay, swing like you mean it.
Yeah,
so when I learned at 12.
Thanks, Dad, for the hitting tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, quit swinging the bat like swinging a Star Beacon. Rip it and rip it.
And the rest is history.
Applies to everything in life.
That's a strike. Well, that's what Babe Ruth said. Never let the fear of striking out get in your way. And he didn't.
There's a number of guys. That's the way the game's going now. That's why, we talk about the Rays doing a nice job of cutting back on strikeouts and putting innings together. That seems to be the trend now.
Yep.
Strikeouts, they're not worried about it as long as you're productive with the home runs and the RBIs.
Rios lifts a popper into shallow right. Zobrist out there to take care of that. Well, let's take a look at the Toyota trend and Matt Moore, who was the winning pitcher last night. Great start, then those 3 starts not so good, and then he's right back at it again. And to this point, not on the All-Star team. There could be a way to get there, however.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pitchers. Somebody may bow out. You've got a lot of different things at work, but certainly he is deserving of a spot. I mean, 12 wins. And I'll tell you what, the 3 starts where he had the really bad run, that started right after that 1-inning stint in Cleveland, where they started the game that should have never been started. And, of course, there all night with the rain delays. He only pitched 1 inning that day. Then I ended up going to Detroit, and things just weren't the same for a few starts. But, yeah, he's locked it back in. And his last 2 starts, it's been all 3 pitches. It's been fun to watch. Fastball, curveball. Last night, the changeup took center stage, had a number of strikeouts on the changeup.
Well, there are at least a couple of starting pitchers on that squad that apparently are going to scheduled to pitch the Sunday before the break. Keppinger back to center, and Jennings takes care of that. And so that could give him an opening. And for more on that, let's check in with Todd.
Yeah, you're right about that, Dwayne. There's 2, Justin Verlander and also Hisashi Iwakuma, who are scheduled to pitch Tuesday and then again on Sunday. Bartolo Colon's scheduled to pitch Monday. They do have a day off due to the A's on Thursday, so he would also be scheduled to go next Sunday. Obviously, rainouts can change that, but there's 3 potential guys right there currently on the All-Star team, Verlander, Iwakuma, Colon, who would not be eligible to pitch in the All-Star game, so Matt Moore might have an opportunity, guys.
That would be good for him.
Certainly
really deserving.
Yep.
Here's Josh Fegley hitting one deep to left. Rodriguez to the wall, and that's going to get out of here. Fegley hits his first big league home run on the first pitch of the at-bat. And so that will cut the lead at half. It's 2-1.
And how big of the Rays to be able to score that run with 2 outs and nobody on. That's why you want to give a little bit of breathing room, because with a 1-run lead, every guy that comes to the plate is a potential tying run. And Fegley right here gets a cutter meant for the outside corner. Instead, it finds the middle. And he gets just enough of it. Very high. You saw Sean Rodriguez trying to measure it up. Too far.
So Begley, who got his first big league hit here night before last, gets his first big league home run in the 6th inning.
And what a guy to get it off of. If you're going to get your first big league home run, have it be off of a David Price, the reigning Cy Young Award winner. Well, that's enough of the good stuff about Begley.
Pitch is high. 2-0 the count to Luciano. One for 2. Two and 1. Price with a couple strikeouts. No walks. He's given up a run on 7 hits. You know, he came into this inning 58 pitches through 5. 12 innings of 128 pitches and no 3-ball counts yet.
That's amazing. You know, efficient is one thing. What he's doing, what he did in Houston, and even today, it's pretty astounding. He has been locked in mechanically, and it's to both sides of the plate. That's what's making him so effective. He's just moving the ball around at will. And leave it to that stat.
Full count now.
Perfect.
So there you go. He went, what, 140 pitches before he went, in this case, 3-2. The first 3-ball count. And he comes back to strike him out swinging. A run on the home run, nobody left. We go to the bottom of the 6th. The Rays lead. It's a 2-1 ball game, and Evan Longoria will be the leadoff man for the Rays when we come back for the Rays half of the 6th. Two to one ball game with Evan Longoria at the plate. The curveball comes in too high. Loney next, and then Myers. Bouncer to third. Morel's throw to first in time. Evan is out number 1 in the 6th. James Loney. Only a 16-game hitting streak. And 0 for 2 in this game. Which is high. Danks, the left-hander. He's 28 years old. He was originally drafted by the Texas Rangers. There's a looper into left, and it's going to be caught by Wells. Wells approaching that with extreme caution.
Yes, he was. I don't think that he was aware of what he was seeing. You see him there as he's starting to go for it, but it was the hesitation before that is what you were talking about, Dwayne, that put him in the position to have to go down to make that catch.
Strike one to Will Myers. Wells almost played that into a hitting streak for Loney.
That close. He just got that glove underneath the baseball. And by the way, if that squirts by him, who knows where Loney ends up.
A ball and a strike to Myers. It was called out on strikes in the second inning. Out pitcher first in the fourth. 1 for 4 with a run scored in the game last night. 2-1. Shot to center. Cody right there for it. And the Rays are up and down 1-2-3. On to the 7th we go. It's a 2-1 ball game. Rays lead. For the Rays, holding this 1-run lead.
Well, David Price has been outstanding, save for one cutter that found its way to the middle of the plate. Josh Begley deposited it into left field. Other than that, David Price working both sides of the plate with all of his pitches, picking up right where he left off in Houston, and doing a nice job of managing that pitch count again. 72 pitches through 6 innings. That's an average of 12 per. That is just outstanding.
And only 1 3-ball count tonight. He came back to pick up a strikeout on that full count pitch.
Well, he's not walking anybody. He's not hurting himself in that area, making you earn it, and he's doing it all the while being in attack mode. He's just coming right after these hitters, in and out.
Face the 7, 8, and 9 hitters, starting with Brent Morrell, the third baseman. Morrell had a base hit in the 4th inning. And tries to bunt it and does so foul right back into the screen. Correa gloves it. Throw to first. One away. Celebrate Thanksmas in July at Tropicana Field, July 14th. When the Rays take on the Astros, enjoy holiday music and decorations throughout the game. Purchase this special ticket in the press level reserved and receive a Thanksmas in July ornament. Visit RaysBaseball.com/special events. Casper Wells is 0 for 2. Liner into left field, a base hit. Wells is on, and that's hit number 8 given up by Price. The idea for Price today, 90 to 100 pitches. He had 72 coming into this inning.
Now this pitch left out over the plate. David Price knows it. He's trying to come in. It leaks. No, this is the tough part. You know, you want to make that pitch. You don't get it there. The guy hits it. You know it as soon as it comes off the bat. You're mad at yourself. Take a little walk, do what you got to do, but once you step back on that rubber, that's got to be out of your mind. Now it's on to the next pitch. You know, if you're going to pick over to first base, whatever you're going to do next, everything else has to be put behind you. Easier said than done.
Look to Cody in the batter's box. A toss to first. Wells back in.
Talk about the inning speeds up on a guy, and all of a sudden you find yourself sitting on the bench like, how did that happen? That's what ends up happening is you're not able to put the first hit behind you, and you're up there, you're thinking about that. You don't execute the next pitch. There's another hit. Now you're mad about that. What am I doing? First and third. Before you know it, a couple more hits and you're on the bench, and that's because you were never able to clear the mind and get back into the moment. That's what it means by letting the game speed up on it.
Runner takes off. The one-hop throw in is in time to get Wells. With Barrett on the call out there. Wells caught stealing. 2 gone. Second caught stealing in this game.
Well, Molina's not going to air it out, but I'll tell you what, good jump, and he gets rid of it so quickly. And how about the scoop tag by Escobar? Presents it well to Ted Barrett. Right over the bag. Get rid of the ball in a hurry. Scoop, boom, right off the turf. Got him.
Close out there at second. Very close. They threw out to Cody in the third and Wells in the seventh.
The thing that Escobar did nicely is he caught that ball, the glove going down, and then immediately just shows it to Ted Barrett. Whether he scraped him or not, he went down there like, yep, I got him. I'm holding on to the ball. Let me throw it around now. Well done.
1-1 to count to Cody. The tapper back to the hill. Price makes the throw to retire the side. We're in the middle of the seventh. Time for the Hyundai seventh inning stretch. 2-1 Rays.
2-1 game as we head to the bottom half of the 7th inning here at Tropicana Field. As you know, the All-Star rosters were announced yesterday with the exception of one spot in the roster that's up to the fan vote. The final vote is available for fans to make their decision. Our AT&T Twitter poll is who do you think will win the AL final vote? You've got 5 choices. You've got Steve Delabar, hashtag ASG Delabar. David Robertson, hashtag ASG Robertson. Koji Uehara, hashtag ASG Uehara. You also have Tanner Sheffers. You see Joaquin Benoit, the former Ray, in there as well, hashtag ASG Benoit. Tweet your votes to @SunSportsRays. The All-Star game coming up on Fox July 16th. In the National League, who do you think will win the NL final vote? Obviously, Yasiel Puig is going to get a lot of attention. You see the rest of the choices: Hunter Pence, Adrian Gonzalez, Freddie Freeman, Ian Desmond. In the AL, it's all relievers. In the NL, position players, still surprised, the former Ray, Grant Balfour, not amongst the choices in the American League with the season he's having for the Oakland A's. Back we go to Dwayne TBA.
All right, yeah, the All-Star manager with some input from the commissioner's office selects that list of 5, and then fans choose from that list for the final spot.
I think on that National League list, it was quite obvious that Ian Desmond, a big fan of Dwayne's stats.
I didn't notice.
Just roll it back.
Well, Luke Scott here, leading off the bottom of the 7th. 1-1 pitch, and he hits it high and deep into right. Rios to the wall. Going to be over his glove and off the wall. Scott rounding second, on his way to third, and he's going to make it a 3-base hit for Luke Scott.
Off the bat, you're thinking home run, that he got enough of it. But when it hits the top of that padding, right below the fence, it hits the top of the padding, and all of a sudden Alex Rios cannot find it. Now you're thinking potential triple. How about Luke Scott? He didn't even think it had a chance at anything. Figured he missed it. Did not catch it clean, but he did get good carry. And right there, when he can't find it, now you're thinking you've got a chance for third base, and that's exactly what Luke Scott did. He sees it. Now he's going to kick it in, go 90 feet more.
Well, get together on the hill by the White Sox as a result of the Luke Scott triple. So it'd be nice to pick up at least this run, if not more here, leading off the inning. They get Matt Lindstrom up in the bullpen. The White Sox down the left field line. Jose Molina will be at the plate. The infield comes up. A ball, no strikes. Backing up, he'll make the catch. Coming home, Scott, the Rays and the run to make it 3-1.
I'll tell you, efficient offense. And John Danks, after he was backing up home plate right there, the look on his face like, you got to be kidding me. Gave him the extra run. The Rays took a 2-run lead, cut in half with the home run from Fegley, and the Rays answer and extend it back out to 2, and he knows he's running out of time.
The White Sox have had a difficult run overall, and particularly on the road recently it has been difficult for this club. So the Rays get the run right back and again lead by 2. back into center. Cody, before he gets to the track, makes the catch. And that is out number 2.
Escobar, one of those hitters that my dad would be very proud of.
Yes.
Swing like you mean it.
Yep, and he does.
Yes, he does. Knows he just missed it.
The ball to Jennings. The White Sox, in their last 22 road games, they've gone 4-18 on the road. (2-0) to Desmond.
And that's the challenge for Robin Ventura, is to just keep this from spiraling completely out of control, because that's what can happen. Playing poorly in the basement, a lot of trade talk, and boy, things can go south. I mean, even further south for the Southsiders.
And it only takes a couple, and it starts to get bad.
Yeah, well, and you know what? They got some of their horses on the disabled list. You know, Canerco's on the disabled list. Gavin Floyd is out for the year.
Yep.
Jake Peavy on the disabled list, although they expect that he can maybe come back shortly after the All-Star break. That would be a shot of life for this team to get him back. He's one of those workhorse pitchers.
Count still 2-2 to Desmond. Next pitch count closing in on 100. Through 93 pitches his last time out when he beat Baltimore, coming off the win. 109 the outing before that. That's his season's high. And the 2-2 curveball is low, so it's full now. He had the win over Baltimore and then 3 losses prior to that to Houston, Minnesota, and the Mets. And Desmond out on strikes, came back with a changeup to get him. Rays get a run through 7. It's 3-1 Tampa Bay.
Put it in the truck, in the back of the truck, and I hit a home run into the truck and got $100.
Yeah, he went pro early. Courtesy of his dad. Hey, and there's
got a big fan there.
Matt Joyce fan, and she's on TV rooting for Matt, the former Armwood High product. Matt Joyce.
How outstanding of a story is that?
That's great.
Park the truck out there. If you could put it in the truck, I give you $100.
Yeah.
And then he does it.
Yeah, that might be the best story that we've heard today on Kids
Yeah,
Sunday.
that's pretty good. That's hard to top that one.
Although it's putting an idea in the minds of a lot of kids now.
Oh.
Matt Joyce, he was only 12. He got 100.
And look where he's at now.
Yeah.
Inflation.
See what has been started now?
Can of worms.
78 pitches for David Price through 7. Alexi Ramirez takes a strike to open the 8th.
Not to mention, you could be out the money, but what if you don't put it in the truck? What if you put it through the truck?
Yeah, then it gets even more expensive.
There you go.
Ramirez getting time granted by Scott Berry, the plate umpire. Berry's done a nice job behind the plate. This has been one of those games where you haven't seen or heard any complaints from hitters, pitchers, catchers. It's a nice, clean job behind the plate by Scott Berry. High fly ball into left. Rodriguez makes the catch. 1 out.
Yeah, and to that point, I think in any sport, when you don't notice the officials, they're doing a great job.
Jake McGee up in the Rays bullpen. Price at 80 pitches now. He faces Gordon Beckham, who is 2 for 3. I want to know, boy, Price coming out of that first outing in Houston said not only that night but the day afterward, it might have been the best he's ever felt.
Well, he obviously, the time on the disabled list with the tricep strain was spent wisely, because he has come out determined. He has been in attack mode. He's taken care of his body, so it feels good after an outing like that. And it's not even the number of pitches, but it was the up and downs. That's what actually got him out of the game, not the 70 pitches. They wanted to get him to 90, but it was the up and down 7 times. And here, being able to stretch it out into the 8, still be efficient.
And on Beckham, he pops him up foul. Longoria has room. 2 gone. Well, 2 outs, 5 pitches into the 8th.
And this is exactly what you wanted, because I think that there was that stretch of the first 9 starts. I think it affected David's mind to a certain extent. You know, the physical problem, obviously, but it couldn't have been good for his mind with just 1 win and ERA in an area that he probably hasn't seen who knows how long.
Yeah, maybe ever.
Yeah. So what you needed and what you wanted was when he did come back, you wanted to get that quick start, get him some early success and get him rolling. And boy, oh boy, is he throwing great.
Rios pulls it foul outside of third. A bouncing ball. The Rays started this day 5.5 back. Baltimore 5.5 back. Tied for third in the East. Boston 5 up on New York. Yankees and Baltimore in the top of the 9th in New York. Last time we checked, and that's still 1-0. Mariano Rivera is in the game. Yankees scored a run at the bottom of the 2nd, the only one of the day in that game. Strike 2 to Rios. Marotta worked 7 innings. Robertson in for a 1-2-3-8, and now Mariano Rivera. Popped up. Loney coming down the line from first, and that is out number 3. Just foul, and Rios pops out to Loney. Bottom of the 8th. It's 3-1 Tampa Bay. Ball game moves into the bottom of the 8th. The Rays Wives host Rays on the Runway to benefit the Children's Dream Fund. July 11th, players and coaches are paired with their significant other or a child from the Children's Dream Fund to walk the runway and model this season's newest fashions. Get your tickets at childrensdreamfund.org. New pitcher Matt Lindstrom in the game. Sean Rodriguez due, and Matt Joyce will pinch hit against Lindstrom. Strike one. Sean Rodriguez had sacrificed and drove in a run with a broken bat base hit back in the 5th. Two. Danks worked 7. Gave up 5 hits, 3 runs. He struck out 5 and walked 2, made 100 pitches. And Joyce is out on strikes.
Boy, some very sharp pitches from Lindstrom coming out of the bullpen. Firm fastball at 94 miles an hour and a couple sharp breaking sliders. This one taking it right below the zone. 83. Picks up a quick strikeout.
Fernando Rodney up in the Rays bullpen. Ben Zobrist at the plate. Fastball away. Adam Jones has hit a 2-run home run in the 9th. And the Orioles have a 2-1 lead on the Yankees. Connecting off Mariano Rivera. A 1-1 count to Zobrist. It's 2-1. Boston starting the day up by 5 on New York and 5.5 in front of Baltimore and the Rays. Now it's 3-1 to Ben. Boston's on the West Coast taking on the Angels. Zobrist down to first. Keppinger unassisted. It's going to be Lackey and Weaver later on. Angels beat the Red Sox in Anaheim in the second game of that series, 9-7. Here's Evan Longoria. Ball, no strikes. One. Ground ball, shortstop, grabbed by Ramirez. He turns and throws to get Longoria on a nice play. 1, 2, 3 go the Rays in the 8th. We head to the 9th. 3-1 Tampa Bay.
Show driven by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. We'll talk about Joe Mauer and those mighty Twins. Have a sweet little feature about Jesmyn Jennings and his dugout club visit. And we'll talk about how every AL Central team has more All-Stars than the Rays. And of course, tonight after the final out, join us for the Rays Live, the post-game show presented by Checkers. I'll be in the clubhouse gathering those interviews. Joe Madden and company, especially David Price, going to look forward to that one since his return back here at the Trop. And also, you know, Todd Naressa's steering the ship, and Dwayne and BA, they always present a special little breakdown for us.
All right, Kelly, thank you. And there's David Price back out there on the mound.
How about
the
that?
9th inning.
Yes, David Price, 8 strong innings, 86 pitches. And he has returned to try to finish this ball game off.
Matt Joyce, after pinch hitting, stays on to play left field. And it will be Jeff Keppinger here in the 9th. Fegley, Viciedo. This pitch from David is upstairs. Well, the idea was to have Price somewhere between 90 and 100 pitches. That first pitch here of the 9th is 87 of the game. Made just 8 pitches in the 8th and 6 in the 7th. There's a strike. It's 1-1. And still has had just the 1 3-ball count That was back in the 6th. He went 3-2 and struck out Viciedo. And a strike to Keppinger. 1-2.
And not losing his command.
Price had 2 complete games last year. He has 4 in his career. And he strikes out Keppinger. One away in the 9th. Had him out in front.
Yeah, and Jeff Keppinger, not an easy guy to strike out. Does a nice job of putting the ball in play, but it was the sequencing. A couple of fastballs away, followed up with a fastball in to get the count to 1-2, and then a changeup that wasn't even in a very good spot. Off the plate with a little bit of elevation, but just the fact that he had worked both sides of the plate. Good arm speed on that changeup. He ends up getting the swing and a miss by Keppinger for out number 1. That's great pitching.
Well, Josh Fegley, who's accounted for the Chicago run with his first big league home run. And fastball's in, strike 1. First pitch strike.
We're here late in the game. David Price not shying away from that inside corner. Just continues to come right after, trying to keep these Chicago hitters on their heels.
That extra run in the 7th helps with that situation. Rays led 1-0. There's a strike. Then 2-0. Then 2-1. Now 3-1. Price up in the count. Fly ball lifted toward right center. Will Myers keeps his eye on it and makes the catch. So 2 up, 2 down. 93 pitches for Price. And Viciedo up here. He singled in the 4th. One of 8 hits collected by the White Sox.
Been a very quiet 8 hits.
Well, 7 of them have been singles. The other one, the home run. And no walks. And a first pitch strike.
I mean, this is what we've seen from David his last 2 starts, and it has been such a pleasure to watch. Molina, he just sets up on one half of the plate, puts his glove out there, probably could catch him blindfolded. That's how good his command has been. Going in there again.
And a foul ball back on the fastball.
Now what do you want? You finish him off with that backdoor cutter. 2 fastballs on the inner half. Gonna go right back in.
2-strike pitch. And boy, it appeared that Barry thought about it. Off the plate end, though.
Yeah, that ball in off the plate actually moves the feet a little bit of Viciedo. This is the perfect time to now go down and away.
1-2. And it sets up out there. And he just missed.
Now, you know what? That's just a matter of a couple inches of execution. Because he had him. He had him. That was what he was trying to do. Backdoor that cutter. And you see David right there with the head nod, too. I think he's telling Molina, get back in there. Underneath the hands.
2-2 to Viciedo. And he got him. He strikes him out. Fastball, mid-90s. 1-2-3 go the White Sox in the 9th inning. And David Price finishes this one off in style. It's a 3-1 win as Price goes the distance. A complete game victory for David Price. He made 98 pitches and improves his record to 3-4. Boy, you talk about coming back and having 2 impressive outings. 7 innings, 70 pitches in Houston. A complete game 3-1 victory here. Under 100 pitches for David Price.
You run out of words. We talk about his performance the last 2 times out, and he was fantastic today, and he set the tone early in the game. Alexi Ramirez, fastball away, fastball in, and that was going to be the way it was. He's going to attack both sides of that plate, and he did so effectively all afternoon long.
For David Price, his first complete game of the year, his 5th career complete game. 98 pitches in this one. How about this? In the 2 starts, 168 pitches, 15 strikeouts, no walks, and only 1 3-ball count. Todd Callis is standing by with David right now.
Dwayne, thanks. David, first time in your career you've gone the distance in fewer than 100 pitches, and you needed to be that pitch efficient because you were kind of within that 90 to 100 count. How good did it feel today to go out there for 9 full innings and walk off the mound and win?
It always feels good when you're able to do that. And again, the defense that I had out there, they continue to make plays. Whenever that happens, it makes it a lot easier to go out there and make pitches. My defense, my offense got me an early run in the first. Whenever they can do that, it just makes everything kind of settle in.
You said last start you felt as good as you felt on the mound. How did you compare this one to the last one?
I felt good today as well. I feel like I felt better, 5 days ago. But I still had the fastball command today. My changeup wasn't as good, but that's all right. I threw more backdoor cutters, and outside of the one that Fagley hit, I thought it was a pretty good pitch. So all in all, it was a good day, and it's just a good team win.
When you know you're on a pitch count, are you even more conscious of being pitch efficient? Because it seems like you're just going only 1 3-ball count so far in your first 2 starts back.
No, I don't think about that stuff. And you start thinking about pitch count and innings limits or whatever you have, it's that takes a little bit of the thought process out of the game. So I just want to focus on every hitter, treat every hitter the same and just go from there.
You knew last game you were only at 70 and Joe didn't want you to go up and down more than the 7 innings. Today, were you concerned at all after 8 innings that they might try and talk you out of the ninth?
I asked Joe the other day, what happens if the same thing happens in 5 days? And he just kind of said, we'll have to wait and see what happens. So I was happy he left me out there for the 8th and the 9th, and that was a good win.
How about the pitcher's leap? You haven't had a chance to do that in a while. Does Chris Archer need a little work on the timing?
He was just a little late. That's how Cobb got knocked on his butt last year. So I just made sure I grabbed him so nobody fell or rolled in the ankles. But he'll work on it. He'll get better.
There you go. Dave, congratulations. It's so fun to have you back and looking the way you do. It's been quite a series for this team to sweep with the starting pitching the way it was. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And that's what this team's been all about ever since I've been here, starting pitching and the guys in the bullpen and defense. That's what we've done the last 4 or 5 years ever since I've been here. And if we're able to pick it back up, because the offense has just put up incredible numbers the entire year, if we can just get those guys back like they have ours on defense, we can win a lot of games.
Thanks, David. All right, guys, David Price, back to you.
All right, Todd, thank you. Some great starting pitching in this series for the Rays as they sweep the Chicago White Sox. They win today 3-1, and we'll be back to wrap it in a moment.